Alright. It's actually kind of a cool setup. I like that. Where the opening plays, kind of chilling for a bit, seeing what's happening in that opening, maybe getting some clues about the story. It ends, fades to black. Now it fades into white, and you hear the sounds of the Higurashi, and I'm like, oh shit! It's time again. Ah, man, I do feel a lot better after taking that nap. Now that music, though. Okay, here we go. Let's do a quick research note, and let's see what happens. I mean, if you want to maintain your sleep schedule, you do not have to stay up for this. But as long as I get like the things I need to do done per day, I feel not terrible, right? Okay, seems like a summary of what's been happening again. She was pronounced dead the following year after being considered to have vanished under perilous circumstances. Okay. So I want to double check that one more time. Yo, Loveheart, thanks so much for the gift subs, man. That means we've officially hit the sub game choice, which means that I will have to make a poll. I will obviously be playing Final Fantasy VII still, so that's not going to take priority over that. But we'll add the game choice from our subscribers into the queue, probably directly after, I suppose, and we'll see what happens. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, this is the notes from probably the police, I'm guessing. Based on the 4-year involved in death, Hojo's sibling aunt, who was then their foster mother and dependent elder brother. Okay, so we're getting a little bit closer with the aunt and uncle. And so far, we've had some info here and there showing that they're not the best kind of people. And the aunt died from bruises? No. She died because she got hit by a baseball bat several times. So that was clearly a curse. Okay. I don't know how someone makes that jump, but all right, sure. Baseball bat wounds? Curse. It was a cursed baseball bat, clearly. Yeah, but this is kind of a this is kind of a strange chapter so far, at least for me. I understand that every chapter kind of has that period where you're being convinced that you're also one with the friends, right? Especially chapter 1, in my opinion. But chapter 3 really feels like you're actually one of the group because you're sharing in a secret. That's how they kind of commit you to the cause of Hinamizawa, you know what I mean? And I'm also seeing this different side of the village, but I'm actually on the right side this time. I'm on the side where other people get angry for me, but I'm seeing the problematic elements of that, right? And the main character has chosen to make a distinct decision of keeping with the group, right? We're not gonna upset anything about our current days are running into infinity, whatever that might mean. The regular everyday life. We don't want to upset that, and so we won't bring up these things that we know. I want to say deep down, people know that they need to address it, but we won't do it because it's ultimately what currently makes us happy. It's what maintains this very fragile relationship and this kind of feeling that things are okay. But it doesn't really matter though, right? Because even before the festival happens, we're missing someone. And that's actually kind of telling that the bad things in this chapter are going to already happen before the festival. I don't even need to really like hide that, right? You can already feel it, and the main character feels it. So then, if you think about it in that sense, the deadline for for waiting is getting shorter because the bad things are happening sooner. That means that those precious few days where you're spending with your friends, if that's the point of like of the story, right? It's disappearing, and that sense of urgency is starting to feel more potent, right? You don't have what 5 days before the festival anymore. You got 4, maybe 3, 2, 1. Who knows? It might actually get shorter. If there were any candidates left for the curse, it's the husband of the housewife, who was beaten to death last year, Tepe Hojo, aka the uncle. He's kind of outlived his significance, if you know what I mean, fellow villagers. I feel like maybe we shouldn't really be talking about which candidates we should have to kill this year for Oyashiro's curse. I think we don't even need to consider it anymore. We just need to kill the most obvious people. We need to kill this evil uncle and this conniving cop that keeps trying to examine our village, right, guys? I think we can all bond together and make an easy decision this year for a lovely festival. But you kind of get that sense, right? I'm joking around, but that section just implied it. That there is a person who's kind of outlived his position in the village. Yeah, sure, sure. He was once originally part of Hinamizawa, but he was a traitor, dude. He fought for the opposite side in the Dam War. So, what? Why? Why even question who dies this year, right? We don't have to have that photographer and that weird strange lady who happens to like the shed so much. We just need to choose this guy over here. Well, I mean, the coach is a little bit weird. I admit that, but he actually legitimately cares about Sadako and her well-being, right? The context clearly given through Keiichi's eyes. Um, he gives the information that's very vital um, regarding Oishi, but more importantly, regarding Satako's aunt and uncle, right? And he feels for her. He wants her not to be in that situation anymore, to the point where he's considered adopting her. And yeah, he's a little creepy here and there, but his heart's in the right place. Right. We're not treated as outsiders in this particular story. Um, the secret's out there, and we are taking part in keeping that secret, right? So whenever I wink at Manu, wink wink, we're keeping a secret. Did you know the secret is actually that one of the people in the chat is is uh is a bully, okay? And we don't like to talk about people that are bullies in our community because it upsets the status quo, right? It makes everyone feel uncomfortable. But sometime in the future, we gotta talk about Bully Heart, okay? And I know that whenever we talk about Bully Heart, Love Heart just explodes. He gets so angry, just like Rena, right? And this is something that we can't actually move forward from. But for the time being, to preserve our everyday happy childhood moments, we can't bring this up, right? We bring it up with Love Heart. He gets angry. Look at that. We bring it up with our real life friend Shmion. She gets angry. She's like, what are you talking about? Bully Heart didn't transfer. Bully Heart is still here, right? And I'm like, nah. Bully Heart died several years ago. And all you're seeing now is a ghost. Oh. Like, oh my god, what's happening here? I'll be honest, I didn't pay attention to that at all. Okay, so if someone can give me like the quickest rundown of what I just read there, because I didn't read it, I love it. Let's move forward. I was so involved with.
守りたいと思う心に嘘はなかった。大切にしたいと思う心は誰よりも強いはずだった。優しさから生まれた感情はやがて殺意へと変わり、真っ白だった思いは赤と黒で染まってゆく。それが守りたかった日常の崩壊を意味していると分かっていながら、たたり殺し、何が間違っていたのか、その答えを探して悲劇はさらに広がってゆく。
北条さんは今日もお休みですか？
Okay, here we go. It begins.
古出さんは何か知っていますか？
We're starting off with a kind of depressing song here, and Rika's not speaking up about anything. Hang on.
さとこちゃん、どうしちゃったんだろうね。
俺が知るかよ。
Okay, he even uses the word flipped. It could have been just convenience, but that's how I've been describing this story. Okay.
So, そんなことあるもんか。
God, this little bit here. Oishi is Oyashiro-sama's servant fucking blows my mind.
あいつが現れたから聡子が今年のたたりに合う役だなんて決められてたまるかよ。
Because we talked about something that we shouldn't have, which is the subject matter of bully heart, I was given a bad premonition. Such a small thing was what invited this punishment, is how I translated that in my head. Oh, actually, what I did right there is how I kind of read through visual novels. I imagine practically everyone does that, actually. But if you're confused by a line, you can translate it in your version in your head, right? Then you compare it to actually what you're reading, and then you make observations on the differences and what it could actually mean.
リカちゃんが言わないならさ、言うまで待つしかないよね。逆に言わないってことは言う必要もない程度のことかもしれないし。
Well, I mean, I feel that way with most visual novels, but I have to kind of adopt a new kind of style. That's why I always find it kind of impressive that people can read so quickly. And I've been doing that like all my life, man. I couldn't tell if she wasn't happy that Rika-chan wouldn't talk about it with her own friends, or if she was concerned over Sadako's well-being. Okay, so we're now seeing someone kind of repeat things that happened in the past, but this time we are the observer of that. What about me? My anxiety was suffocating me day after day. I feel like I'm living this life right now. If someone else were looking at me, then maybe I'd look annoyed, like Mion did.
前原さん、ちょっといいですか？
またボールが引っかかったか？今度はお前たちで何とかしてみろよ。いつまでも先輩に頼るのは良くないぜ。
Okay, so that sense of togetherness, for some reason, seems to really be falling apart. I mean, obviously Satoko's not there anymore. Rika's feeling kind of down. One of the issues, in my opinion, of the previous chapter was not like... Oh, well, previous chapter and this chapter is not talking about important subjects and letting it kind of blow up.
ちょっと気になる噂を聞いたんすよ。
噂？
はい。
I mean, we all need to talk about the elephant in the room, guys. How we need to kill this uncle with the curse. Okay? We know that he's in the story. I want to kill him.
ひょっとすると関係があるかもと思って。
Okay, so a rumor about Satoko that we haven't really heard before?
富田君、岡村君、その噂話ってもちろん聡子の欠席と関係のある話なんだろうな。
関係があるかはわからないですけど、あるいは。
聡子は一体どうしたってんだ？風邪なのか？ それともひょっとしてもっと重い病気か怪我か何かで。
いえ、それがむしろ逆で。
Is she sick, or could she be like really sick or injured or something? No, it's actually the opposite.
うちのばあちゃんの話だと、昨日の昼にうちの店に豆腐を買いに来たらしいんです。
Okay.
豆腐屋さんに買い物？で、聡子はどうだったんだよ。元気そうだったのか？それとも病み上がりでマスクでもしてたとか、松葉杖で包帯だらけだったとか。
いえ、別に病気とか怪我とかそういうわけじゃなかったらしいんですが。
Okay, no signs of sickness or injuries, but...
絹ごし豆腐を一丁買っていったそうなんですが、ばあちゃんが言うにはおかしいと。
おかしい？なぜ？絹ごし豆腐を買って何が悪い？
Ah, something just clicked in my head.
北条とフルデってほら二人暮らしでそんなにお金持ちってわけじゃないですよね。だから二人はいつも安い木綿豆腐しか買わないんです。
Cheaper, firmer kind of tofu. I don't know much about tofu, but go on.
一番高い絹ごし豆腐なんか買ったことないんです。
木綿だって絹ごしだってどっちも豆腐だろ。
I mean, tell me more.
たまにはうまい豆腐が食いたくなっただけかもしれないじゃないか。
それはそうですけど。
Well, it means that she's not going to school, even though that she's okay. She's spending a lot of money. She's doing things outside of her norm. She's not living with... She's not living with Rika. That's different. That's pretty clear.
次は僕っすね。これも噂なんですけど、帰ってきたらしいんですよ。
帰ってきた？何が？誰が？
北条のおじさんが。
Okay, there we go. And a lot of tips was leading up to that point, so that's not a surprise for anyone, right? We know that this has happened. That the moment that Satoko wasn't in the picture, that we were already off to our wholesome days of Higurashi.
去年のお社様のたたりで怖くなって町に逃げたっていう北条のおじさんです。こいつヤクザみたいな怖くて乱暴なやつで。
そいつが帰ってくるとどうして聡子が学校を休んで真っ昼間に絹ごし豆腐を買う羽目になるんだ？
Well, I know when I asked the chat regarding what subject matter they think will be in 2020, a lot of people agreed, at least on one subject matter being not in 2020. And that kind of makes me sad. Because Higurashi is kind of heavy for a lot of the reasons other than death, right?
ごめんな、二人とも。せっかく好意で話を聞かせてくれたのに、なんだか問い詰めるような言い方になっちゃって。
あ、いえ、いいんすよ。北条が重病で寝たきりになってないことが分かっただけでも、ほら、儲けもんじゃないですか。
I mean, obviously this arc is gonna obviously be included, right? The question is how much detail is gonna be included. Right, and you can't have all that backstory. You still gotta make some cuts, adaptation decisions, and by doing so, you get a different product, right? But it still shares the same kind of core, ideally.
あ、前原さん、ほらあれ。
Yeah, but you have to keep in mind that the Heaven's Feel movies had to make some major pacing decisions in the first movie to make the second movie and ideally the third movie as what they are, right? I don't know if you're down to watch Heaven's Feel Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3 with me in the future. Let's go, right? But in my opinion, Heaven's Feel is not a movie series because it's 3 parts, right? It's not a movie series that gently guides you into the Fate Stay Night universe, right? You're a fan and you watch that movie, or you're confused and you've never seen the movie. You don't have like information from prior events. You just kind of go in. Oh, you mean that material? Well, holy shit! Sorry, she just appeared out of nowhere. Are you okay?
北条だ。
I was going to make a joke about certain film scene reels that were given out during Heaven's Feel, and then I saw Satoko, and I was like, okay, maybe not right now.
スタートコ
なんですの圭一さん。突然大声を出して走ってくるから何事かと驚きましたわ。
バカ、俺のことなんかどうでもいいだろう。それよりどうしたってんだよ、サトコ。3日間も。俺心配で心配で。
心配性ですわね。たかだか3日ですわよ。もう圭一さんは心配性なんですから。
Yeah, but despite that,
北条。
she's still trying to just maintain appearances. Interesting.
大丈夫だったのかよ。風邪とかじゃないのか。
一体どうしたってんだよ。3日も俺がどれだけ心配してたか。
ごめんあそばせですわ。ちょっとお家のお掃除をしたりしてたんですのよ。だいぶ長いこと使ってませんでしたから、もう家中ほこりだらけでして。
はあ？サトコ、お前何を言ってんだ？なんで家の掃除なんかで学校を休まなきゃなんないんだ？
もう今はお弁当の時間ではありませんの？私はお腹が空いてますのよ。
Okay, so we're straight up we're just dodging the real question here. And so like that secret that we kept up to be within like the inn for Hinamizawa, right? The insider group is now kind of, I don't know how to put it. I just know exactly how it feels to pretend that everything is all right is super exhausting when it's not.
まあいいや。リカちゃんは3日間毎日お前の弁当を持ってきてくれてるんだぜ。今日はちゃんと食べてやれそうだな。
And to like not address that, you can only kind of hold for so long, you know?
とにかく早く教室へ行こう。みんなを安心させてやろうぜ。
そうですわね。皆さんにご心配をおかけしてしまったかもしれませんわね。人気者は辛いでございますわ。 くおかけしましたわね。
Okay.
北条さん、
あら先
Square up.
生、3日間もご心配をおかけしましたわね。
I really do love that pose so much.
ご覧の通り元気でピンピンしてますわ。
もう本当に心配してたんですからね。お弁当が食べ終わったら職員室に来るんですよ。
That's actually a good idea. I think the next time I see Mio, I'm gonna ask her to square up. I hope she doesn't punch me.
いろいろとお話があります。
3日もサボったからきっと大目玉に違いありませんわね。
Yeah, you're right, I guess.
でも安心したよなレナ。
あ、ごめん。
Man, I'm just thinking about the past so much from watching this chapter right now.
うん、無事でよかったよね。めんどくさいんですけど、行かないともっと怒られてしまいそうですからね。僕も一緒に行きますですよ。ごめん遊ばせケイチさん。ちょっと怒られてまいりますわ。
Yeah, and I don't know how I'm stumbling my words so often right now. This kind of atmosphere brings me back to 2 time periods in my life. One of them, I know this is kind of personal, but one of them was how often my parents would argue, and then after they argued, they never really resolved their differences. They just pretended that everything was okay, and we tried to continue our lives. And whenever that happened, I remember as a kid, I would think in my head, I don't think this is how things should normally go. Why can't we actually just solve our differences, right? But it kept going like that. So they kept arguing up until their divorce, and that is one of the things I'm reminded of. How you really can't just gloss over problems in your life. Eventually, you really do have to. You have to address them. There we go. Sorry, like I said, I couldn't figure out the word. And then the other thing that it reminds me of is post-college, actually. And there was this period in my life where, despite the fact that I had studied things like communication, right, I still couldn't talk about certain things in my life. So I felt like such a failure. Didn't help that I was unemployed, and it was pretty common for me to get a snide remark from even friends, but especially my parents. And also, it didn't help that I didn't need to be told that, because I would wake up every single day thinking that I was worth nothing. And that eventually became my norm, where I simply wouldn't talk to people about my problems. And I kind of just sat there and took the brunt of everything that was bothering me, and I didn't talk about it. And so, like, even without saying anything, it kind of came out in ways that I didn't want it to. And eventually, I kind of just pushed myself away from everyone because the problem was never really addressed. And when I did bring it up with, say, like, folks, right, and stuff like that, it still wasn't addressed. I don't really know where I'm going with this, other than this sequence of events that happen in Chapter 3 set it up in such a way where I really do empathize and understand this extremely suffocating feeling that life really is not moving forward. And although we do want things to continue and we want our childhood to feel like it's forever, there comes a breaking point for that, right? Because even if you go to an extreme where that childhood lasts forever, you're never really growing, and that also is suffocating, right? So there must be some type of balance. And I think everyone naturally understands that, but but one of the easiest ways to show a point in fiction, right, is to have those extremes be kind of apparent. So then like readers can notice it as well, right? I feel like I want to think about that a little bit more, because for me, it required those extremes in fiction for me to get the point. And I don't know if subtlety comes from going more towards the midline and then trying to adjust these issues in a more subdued fashion, or I don't know. Like, I really do not know. That's a really strange way of approaching it. I imagine that makes like no sense to anyone. But for me, who was always blind to visual cues, my world really opened up when I started taking film a lot more seriously. When I started to notice that my everyday life could not continue that way, right? Despite the fact that I studied all these things and I wanted to make it a reality, I was actually rather incompetent when it came to speaking. So one day, I went and watched a movie, and that movie changed my life because I realized that there was something, if I could somehow say about that movie, I could apply it to my real life. And I went to go see that movie, I think about 4 times, actually, when it was in theaters. And every single time, I still struggled to think about how to best express how I felt about it. And I would drive home from that movie every single time, imagining conversations about how to best talk about the ideas in the movie. And I'm being very vague about this because the movie itself was something that I really related to. And it was a subject matter that made me feel that there was a sharing of experiences. So obviously, solve this movie, solve my problem felt a little bit relevant, actually.
なんだったら俺も一緒に付き合うぜ。例のカレーの悪口の時、一緒に職員室で怒られた仲じゃねえか。
So the thing is that's how I learned about film, and this way that I commentate visual novels is still kind of a recent skill, actually, despite all the years that I've taken studying English, right? I feel my way of expressing it now is a lot more competent than it was before. And there's kind of that really strong feeling of release to finally be able to say the things that you've always held back from. Like, I still find it kind of funny that when people come to me for advice or want to talk about anything that concerns them, right? Somehow this question of why comes up, right? Because I get a little confused sometimes. Like, obviously, if you're friends with someone, you can talk to them about, ideally, things that bother you, right? And you can hopefully work together and try to come to a solution. That's common, I think. But it's kind of a weird feeling for me because I've had that situation arise like throughout all my life where close friends of mine would come to me for advice. And I was a very different person when I was in college than I am now. And even before college, an extremely different person, right? And moving from like a focus on explaining things via emotions to explaining things logically, and also then connecting them to emotions was a jump that I couldn't quite figure out until I had practiced visual awareness a lot more. Films essentially helped me do that. So I'm trying to figure out where I'm going with this conversation, except that this chapter really made me think about my past a lot. And the ability to address problems is something that is associated with film for me. That's the reason why. And then I built up the skills in order to commentate this, and it came from specifically a time period that addresses exactly what she's kind of going through right now. Okay, there we go. That's a logic
それ
behind
に
it.
は及ばないのです。
But I just find it really interesting too because I went like a complete 180 in people's eyes. Some of my friends still kind of see me as a version of myself that I was in college, right? And my more recent friends, like people that I've kind of like gotten to be friends with within like the last 3 years, for example, they kind of see this. They see the me now, right? And it's kind of strange in some instances come to talk to people who have different interpretations of who I am.
ケイチはここでお留守番なのですよ。
See? Jeez. Bully heart on full display. So anyway, I apologize for that tangent, but that's the kind of perspective I am coming from when I'm looking at this particular story in Higurashi, right?
そうだろうみんな。俺は仲間に隠し事はしない。だからさっき聞いたばかりのことを言う。
And that's also why I really felt that visual novels early on in my life were a very personal thing, because I would associate a lot of my actual life with things that happened in the VN. Honestly, if I didn't get some sleep, I might have never mentioned what I just did on stream. But I feel like maybe a little bit of context might have been helpful.
これが俺の知るすべてだ。
Because sometimes these sensitive subjects go over your head until you're able to relate to them in some way.
だからミオンもレナもしていることがあるなら話してくれ。
And I feel like once you make that small connection, actually everyone relates to it, right? How many of you have been in a position where you had to not address the problems in your life, and by doing so, you felt suffocated? Everyone, right?
俺は俺の知るすべてを話したぞ。
Because there are times in which you can't talk about that. And there are times when you really want to talk about it, but you have to just smile and let it go.
「別に私は隠して黙ってるわけじゃないよ。でもケイちゃんが話したなら私も話さないわけにはいかないよね。
みーちゃん、何か知ってるの？
いや、聡子のおじが帰ってきたっての帰ってきた初日から知ってたよ。この間の日曜日にふらっとひなみ沢に帰ってきたって。
I'm surprised that you didn't bring that up, Mion. So, I mean, that feels like par for the course in this chapter, that we're not talking about these things that are important, but wow.
どうしてそれを黙ってた？
ごめん。
圭一くん、怒るようなことじゃないよ。みーちゃん怖がってる。
あ、ごめん。つい大声を。
But yeah, that's actually something that I do very often with VNs. If you ever find yourself really confused about how a situation should make you feel, maybe if you can try to connect it to your real life, you'll get a better understanding of it. Really? Hang on, one more time. Collapsed. Well, anywhere to go, he went back home to Hinamizawa. And on that Sunday, the day of the barbecue, her uncle ran into Satoko and brought her back to the house. I had no fucking clue. That was supposed to be a happy
自
day.
宅になんで連れ戻すんだよ。
ろくでなしの怠け者だからね。自分一人じゃ炊事はおろか掃除一つできないし。
Ouch! Ugh! Ah!
そんな炊事やお掃除のためにさとこちゃんを連れ戻したっていうの？
Right. So you...
さとこが家に閉じ込められて
Go on.
いじめられながら家事をやらされてるっていう噂なんだよ。
みーちゃん、それ本当なの？
私がこの目で確かめたわけじゃないから本当かどうかは知らないけど、
去年みたいに意地悪なおじさん夫婦のところで暮らしてた時みたいに。
でもさ、そのおじさんって家事はからっきしなんだろ？さとこが重宝なわけだから何もひどい扱いをしているってわけじゃないかもしれないだろ？
圭一くん、何を根拠に言ってるのか知らないけど、いい加減なことは言わない方がいいよ。
Is that the proper interpretation? Let me read this again. So here is a harmless question. You know, if the uncle is helpless when it comes to housework, then Satoko must be important. So why would you mess with her if she's important to your daily life? It seems illogical. That makes sense to me. Using the tone of her with there. I don't know what grounds you have for saying that, but you shouldn't be so responsible. Saying I just lost my train of thought. Give me a second here. Where was I going with this again? You don't know much about this, so don't talk about it. You do. Okay, so this comes up with the idea again of just harmless, not harmlessly. What's the word that I'm looking for? Incredulously, no, incorrect. It's more like casually bringing up this subject matter will do some harm. That's what's happening. Okay. these are the rumors that she was locked up. Is that true? I haven't seen it myself, so I don't know if it's true or not. They're just rumors for now. Just like last year, like when she's asking specifically, she's probing Mion to get some verification for this. Bam, 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 bam. I'm still not sure if it's true or not. And then Keiichi, in response to the rumors, tries to lower... No, he tries to give an out. That's what it is, essentially, here. Well, she was locked up and tormented. Well, actually, that makes no sense, though. Like, if he's so useless when it comes to housework, there's no reason to harm Satoko, right? Because she can do that. And then that's the response to it. Okay, so that's the train of thought. There we go.
じゃあレナは知ってるのかよ。
私だって知らないよ。今ここで聞くまで、さとこちゃんがおじさんの家に連れ戻されたなんて知らなかったもの。
Okay.
でもね、1年前とはまるで状況が違うの。
状況が違うってどういうことだよ。
サトシくんがいない。
Right. She's all alone.
サトシはすごく妹思いのいい兄だったんだよ。いつもサトコをかばってた。意地悪なおじおばのとばっちりが少しでもサトコにかぶらないように盾になってくれてた。
家には意地悪なおじさんとさとこちゃんが2人きりなんだよ。それがどれだけ行き詰まるものか、ケイチくんにだって想像がつくんじゃないかな。
Yeah, I can get that actually.
ひなみ沢に帰ってきた理由だって、一緒に暮らしてた相手が失踪して生活できなくなったからでしょ。そんな不愉快な理由で帰ってきた人がどうしてさとこちゃんに優しくできるっていうの？
ごめん。
あ、こっちこそごめん。問い詰めるような口調になっちゃったね。
さあさあ、午後の授業を始めますよ。委員長、号令起立。
ごめんなさいね。失礼。
Okay, but we got a quick shot of Rika's expression from that. So we really feel that it's forced right now, given all this information that's kind of coming behind the scenes. Also, I had a thought in that conversation with Rena right there. Two, actually. One that I don't know how to say, and the other I don't know if I should say, so I'm thinking about it right now. What was it? So, in the previous stream, aka the stream that happened yesterday, with the 1 hour stream, there we go, Rena was bringing up things like trying to live every single day to its fullest, right? And she talked in a hypothetical, right, that even if things were predetermined to end tomorrow, right, you should still choose to treat every day as to your fullest, okay? But furthermore, it's kind of important to think about thinking all of Higurashi up to this point right now as kind of events that carry on that ominous feeling, right? In chapter 1, I think you already knew things weren't going to end well. Why? Because the very first scene implies that. In chapter 2, with reference to chapter 1, you start to get that ominous feeling, again, that the second half of chapter 2 isn't going to end well. Chapter 3, we have 2 reference points, and we have a beginning scene of someone's rotten body in a sewage ditch, right? So you get that, plus you get the other 2 stories for reference. And so at this point, let's be honest here. Do you really believe that this story is going to end well?
Yosh!
And if you do believe this story is going to end well, the question becomes, why are there so many parallels happening right now in the story? Think about it, right? This is a story in which the main character, Keiichi, is now very evidently acting like Satoko's brother, right? We know what happened last year. We know that Keiichi has also done such actions very similar to Satoshi, right? So we have that reference point. It kind of colors this chapter in such a way where you get that feeling now, right?
久々に全メンバーが揃ったからね。
Let's think about it. When the information about the aunt got beaten to death with a bat, who do you think did it? It wasn't stated, but let's be real here.
久しぶりにパーッと大部活で盛り上がろうじゃないの。
The curse did it? Guys, please! Oh my god! It was a lunatic. You're right, you got it. You got it.
望むところだよ。
It was a lunatic.
ねえ、さとこちゃん。
The curse did it, guys!
やろやろ。
Oh my...
さとこが好きだったゲームあるでしょ。ほら、なんだったっけ。
Right, you got it. You got it, Kyobi. And so, that leads to this interpretation of this chapter not ending well, right? That leads to this chapter feeling premeditated. Not premeditated, predestined. It's gonna have a fixed end. And that fixed end, you want to ignore. But you already have 2 previous chapters with loaded information. You now see that Keiichi is falling into these patterns. And you also know what the ending of chapter 1 was. And you have a very strong physical object that seems to be rather recurring here.
なんでも構わないよ。行ってみ。行ってみ。
But anyway, that's how you know. Oh god, I don't know how to even put this one. This vague, unsettling feeling that you might be getting, and you know, aligning with Keiichi here is not. It's not by chance, right? It's by study. It's by intention. There we go. It's not by chance, it's by intention of the author.
ありがたいですけど、お気持ちだけで結構ですわ。いろいろしなければならないことがありますので。
Yeah, and if you don't understand that, you now have a more perceptive Keiichi, at least in some ways, right? He's able to notice that things are being held back. He's able to think a little bit more critically when it comes to things unstated. There are obvious things, though, that probably should be stated, though.
おいおいおいおいおい、本気なわけ？部活メンバーが久しぶりに揃ったってのにお流れになっちゃうわけ？敵前逃亡は罰ゲームってのは快速第何条だったっけ？
やめなよ、みーちゃん。無理に付き合わせちゃダメだよ。
別におじさんは無理強いしてるわけじゃないよ。ただ大盛り上がりした方が絶対に楽しいと思って。
本当にお気持ちだけで嬉しいんですのよ。ご安心なさいませ。次に戦うときは皆さんまとめてでっかい罠にはめてご覧に入れますわ。
Hmm. Okay, so that's actually a pretty interesting question. So I'll ask a question first, and I kind of know what the answer is, but have you ever watched a TV show or a movie in which you know that that event is happening, but the main character is not really in danger, right? Because it's too soon for them to die. You have that kind of weird meta knowledge, right? That the movie is only 15 minutes into the movie, and therefore it'd be really awkward to have a main character die, for instance, right? You have that kind of gaming the system, I suppose. Okay, so yeah, for like prequel movies, right? This character existed in a sequel movie, or like it's a movie that's an origin story for someone. So of course they're not gonna die, right? The logic of the sequences makes it impossible for X character to die, and so the problem is how to properly convey tension if that's what's important, I guess. So let me think about your question one more time, and then think about Higurashi, and then think about how that all applies. So what were we just talking about? Okay.
Satoko.
Okay, so the thing about chapter 3 is that there's an ominous feeling that you can't quite let go because of previous information. Because of that, there's a dread. There's a dread that comes with every chapter, pretty much, because of information that's being sent to the reader to convey that. Sure, duh. Let me go further with this idea. So then you must think about the feeling that invokes, right? By creating something, a recurring tragedy throughout these chapters, there's a sense of hopelessness. There is a sense that nothing will change. Okay? It sets you up to feel that happiness is temporary. That is essentially what's happening here. Happiness is temporary because eventually it's just going to go downhill. That is our expectation now, set by the author. Here's chapter 1, here's evidence of that. Here's chapter 2, here's evidence of that. Here's chapter 3. We still need our third time's the charm, but it's set up with so much foreboding that you can't really ignore this hopeless feeling that feels natural. Natural in the sense that we've seen it already, it's going to happen again. Okay. So that's the logic. So where are we now? Okay, so evidence has been given by the story. We are now believing in that train of thought. The third story, which should be verifying, because you need typically three repetitions to create a theme. That's the general idea, at least. So that feeling in part 3 is there because of okay, all right. So to not make it too, what's the word? To not make it boring, Ryukishi sets up the obvious and makes it part of the message in this particular story. Okay, we know how the story is going to end already. I think that's true. Okay, so then what are we reading into the story right now? What's important about this story so we can get a better idea for the next one? All right, sure. We know how the story is going to end. I can make that argument, I'm pretty sure. Because of how it parallels previous stories, how we have 2 bits of evidence already, how front-loaded it is in trying to make you think about a predetermined end. That gets into our head. These parallels are happening. Keiichi has changed. We see the progress from chapter 1 to chapter 3. So What is the next step? You set up your argument with 3 pieces of evidence. So that is why chapter 1, 2, and 3 would exist. To make an argument in chapter 4. Okay. I'm talking a lot to myself right now because I'm thinking about how you construct this as an author. Bam, bam. Okay. So now that you've had, well, we haven't had 3 hopeless situations yet, but I think we can safely say that now. So you will have ideally 3 hopeless situations. The thing is, if it keeps repeating after that, the problem is that to feel tragedy, there also has to be a chance for it not to occur. Is that true? For tragedy to feel real, it must also feel believable. Okay, sure. All right, bam. But that's not my point. For tragedy to feel real, it must have a chance for it not to occur. That's not what I'm saying. What is that thing that is considered part of... I have it... Jesus. I remember reading this in my drama book. What is the idea again? It must feel preventable. Is that true? It must feel preventable if it's a tragedy? Something could have changed in order to avoid that tragedy. And then there's that sense of difference. What do you call that? Between the audience and the character. So pretty much in like Oedipus Rex, for example, we know that the audience is more informed than the character. We know how that story is going to end because it is predetermined. Why? Because it's stated, it's given by prophecy onto Oedipus, which is why we know that. Yeah, but that's considered a tragedy, though, isn't it? It's not preventable. It's a prophecy. Okay. Okay, I'm going on to a tangent right now. This is actually something that I want to read more about. Hang on. It's been a while. This is something that I've actually studied before. I've simply just forgotten. So now I need to understand typical dramatic writing and how to construct a tragedy. And why you can still feel a tragedy, even giving the scenario that it's predetermined, right? We know that this thing is going to happen, so why do we feel that it's still why does it still leave an impact on us? There we go.
チェつまんないの
Yeah, there's definitely tragedies that exist that aren't preventable. They simply have to be. But isn't that the problem, though? Hang on. Because then there's that argument, philosophically, about it's not anyone's fault if it's predetermined. And then, okay, oh man, we're getting over ourselves here. Let's keep going. All right.
リカちゃん、そろそろ話してくれてもいいんじゃないかな。
Hey, Kino, what's up? You're awake right now, man? How did your essay go, by the way?
なんだ
It did not go well. I am so sorry.
去年だっけおじ夫婦の元にいた時もこんな状況だったんだろう。
うん。
Is this the final essay, Kino?
あの時は夫婦喧嘩のとばっちりみたいなのがほとんどだったからさ。
It's not? Okay.
こうして部活で時間を潰して家にいる時間を極力減らすのも一つの手だったんだけど。
Oh no, let me reword that. Is that the final draft? The essay you just turned in, I guess?
今は家事を強制されてるから学校に残ることもできないんだね。
Okay, alright. I hope things go well.
常識的に考えてこんなのおかしいんじゃねえのか。いろいろと状況証拠は必要だろうけど、こういうのって問題だろ。警察とかに通報できないのかよ。
そうだよね。証拠とかがあれば警察に通報できると思うよ。
It's just kind of a weird feeling, right? This is something that happens all the time. That happens all the time when I'm trying to review or analyze a source, like a source of media, for example, right?
あるいはそういうのって沖宮の相談所の人とかに相談できないの？
That I have this question that I can't solve, and I have to juggle that idea while also continuing the text, right? And then if that keeps piling up on other questions, then it's hard to pay attention to the text itself. So I'm gonna have to just drop it from my mind for the time being and think about it later.
みんな簡単に言ってくれるけどさ、それを立証するリスクを考えたことある？
Oh, I can remember it. Let's go back again. When you think about it, isn't this really strange? We need a lot of circumstantial evidence, but it's a problem, right? Can't we notify the police or something? You're right. If we had evidence she was being abused, I think we could tell the police, and can't we talk to Okinomiya's welfare people about this? Okay, so what's preventing us from calling child services, for example, right? That's the question. No, it's a problem, right? We need this evidence. Okay. Okay, keep going, please.
リスクってなんだよ。
一昨年の冬かな。
Okay.
通報したんだよ。
There we go.
沖宮の相談所に。問題があるからすぐに何とかしてくれって。
そうだったんだ。それで？
電話してすぐに職員の人が来てくれたよ。
Alright.
で、聡子とか聡とかに事情聴取してた。ついでにおじ夫婦のところにもね。
サトコとサトシに聞くまではいいが、おじ夫婦にまで聞くのはまずいんじゃないのか。
Right, because there's fear of repercussion.
両者の意見を聞いて総合的に判断するんだとさ。
Alright.
ご立派ご立派。
で、結果はどうだったの？
That's a very sarcastic alright, by the way. But go on.
様子見。
Wait and see.
様子見ってなんだよそれ。
おじさん、とっても勉強になっちゃったんだけどさ、法律ではね、暴行か育児放棄が認められなきゃ虐待とは言わないんだってさ。
So this is 1980s Japan. Is this still a thing, I wonder?
聡子も聡もよく小づかれてたらしいけど、別に傷跡が残るようなレベルじゃなかったし。
Okay, so just like how Oishi gripped my shoulders at the beginning, and there was still no mark. Alright.
3食の飯も一応食えてたし、寝床もあったし、心理的外傷を与える言動だって別にカセットテープで証拠があったわけじゃないし。実際村の人たちだって実際に乱暴してる現場は見たことないからね。いくら意地悪だからって人前で乱暴はしないでしょ。 誰だって。
で、その後どうなったの？
しばらくは毎週決まった日に担当の職員さんが訪問してたみたい。
Okay, so then you could. That sucks.
おじ夫婦も自分たちが見張られてることを気にして目立つ行動はしなくなったらしいけど、
Right.
それで済むわけないでしょ普通。
より陰湿ないじめ方に加速していったってことだね。
Yeah, same day means that you can plan for it on that day. It's. I'm shaking my head.
おばのやつが特にねちっこくってさ、女特有の陰湿さっていうのかな、相当いやらしいことをしてたらしいよ。聡子、最後の方は呼吸するだけのボロ人形みたいだった。わかった？誰の目にも明らかな虐待の証拠がなかったらお手上げなんだよ。むしろ状況を悪化させかねない。あれは失敗だった。
Okay, so from this past event, it's harder to call them now. Also, with all this suspicion regarding the police, specifically Oishi in this chapter, we can't call him either. You can cuss. Within reason, obviously.
つまり誰の目にも明らかな虐待の証拠が見つかるまで通報すべきでないってことなんだね。
うん、まあそういうこと。
Okay, so I see how he's setting this up now. Rikushi, I mean. He's showing us the dangers of trying to just pretend everything's alright. And while that may have a temporary happiness, there is also another side to that. Child neglect. Her uncle had ignored Satoko's existence for a whole year and went to live with his lover in town. That actually, yeah.
うん。それは立派な育児放棄だね。
For an entire year, he was alive. Her only remaining relative, right?
どうなのみーちゃん。
She's like, what, 10?
おじが今もいなければ育児放棄は認定されそうだけど、今この瞬間は同居してるわけでしょ。今までは別居だったけど心を入れ替えて同居することにしたなんて言われたらまた様子見なんてことになりかねないよ。
God, this feels so disingenuous. Not what Mion's saying. She's quoting, obviously.
なんだか悲しい。
Okay, so this kind of wait and see approach.
ということはつまりしばらくは黙って見てろってことなんだよね。
こんなところで話を振ってごめんな。リカちゃんは どうして一人暮らしができるんだ？
That's actually a really good question. That's something I've wanted to ask for a long time. Yeah, so you two were living with each other for a year now. Two 10-year-olds. What's with that?
ほら、リカちゃんって両親いないのに生活してるだろ。保護者のいない子供って施設みたいなところに入れられちゃうんじゃないっけ？
I mean, I know she's an important figure, but
圭一君、それひどい。
悪口で言ってるんじゃねえよ。そこに聡子を救うヒントがあるかもしれないと思って聞いてみただけなんだ。リカちゃん、気分を害したならごめんな。
okay.
それはですね、実は村長さんちの子供になっているからなのです。
Oh, by technicality?
補足がいるね。
Yeah, please.
村長の君吉のおじいちゃんがリカちゃんの保護者なんだよ。
Did you adopt her or something? Go on.
ちゃんと県知事の許可を得た正式な。
へえ、養子みたいなものか？
養子とは違う。別に籍を入れなくても保護者にはなれるんだよ。
Okay.
分かってきた。つまりリカちゃんは普通に暮らしてるけど、法律の上では村長さんの家に住んでることになってるんだね。
Okay, so check.
まあそんなとこ。そのおかげでリカちゃんは保護者から離れての生活を認められているってわけ。聡子はそこに居候してるってことになるけどね。
難しいことはよくわかりませんが、つまりはそういうことなのです。
ミオ、今興味深いことを言ったな。席が違っても保護者になれるみたいなことを言ったよな。
Right, that's the obvious segue here. Then just do that for Satoko, right? Is what you're gonna ask. So go.
じゃあ形だけでも村長さんとかが聡子の保護者になってくれればいいんじゃないのか？
ところがそうはいかないの。だっておじだって保護者のつもりなんだもん。
ちょっと待て、わけがわからなくなったぞ。そもそも保護者ってなんだ？
By legal terms? Yeah, please do. Okay.
ならおじは保護者じゃないな。ずっと聡子をほったらかしにしてた。
Right, for an entire year.
でも保護者だと主張されたらそれまでだよ。
That can't actually be how it works, right? That's fucked up.
聡子が連れ戻されてから数日。その間の食事代はおじの財布から出てるよね。
I mean, I still know this is the 1980s, but shit. Okay.
一応面倒を見てると主張できなくもない。
Also, why would he? Why does he care to be here in the first place? Like, even if things went south with you and your lover in another town, why would? Oh, is he just freeloading at Satoko's place now? Is that the reason why? Was he?
それに1年間聡子をほったらかしたとはいえ、最初の
Yeah,
1年間は
that
生
must
活
be
の
it.
面倒を見た実績がある。でも村長にはその実績はない。
God, that is such a level of scumbaggery that it doesn't actually register in my head. Like, to me, that's so illogical. Like, what?
意地悪なおじさんと村長さんが同時に保護者を主張したら、おじさんの方が強いってこと？
So I'm gonna pretend to be your guardian because my former place is no longer a place that I can stay at. So I'm gonna shack up here even though I abandoned you for a year and just like do whatever.
その可能性が高いってこと。それに保護者ってのは実際に面倒を見てる人を指すんだよ。実際に寝床や食事を握ってるおじと名義だけ貸そうとしてる村長じゃどうにもならない。
じゃあ村長が実際に生活の面倒を見ればいいじゃないか。そうすれば 名実ともに村長が保護者になれるんだろ
Okay. Just start caring.
そんな簡単にはいかないよ。聡子は育ち盛りの女の子なんだよ。人間一人の面倒を見てくださいなんて猫の子預けるのとはわけが違う。
じゃあ監督はどうだよ。監督ってよくは知らないけど裕福なんだろ。自分で言ってたくらいなんだし、本当の親でなくても保護者になれるなら監督でも可能なんだ。監督なら聡子の面倒を立派に見てくれる気がする。
だから聡子をペットみたいに考えないでって。ケイちゃんはさっきから聡子を誰かに押し付ける話ばっかり。人間一人の生活の面倒を見る責任ってものをもっと慎重に考えて。監督に聞いたの。聡子を引き取って面倒を見るってちゃんと確約を得たわけ？
そんなの得てないよ。でも監督なら絶対に OK するだろ
まあいいよ。100歩譲って監督が OK したとするよ。でもダメなんだよ。保護者は独身じゃダメなんだよ。
That you have to explain this logic to me a little bit further. He's alone, like what, a single parent? Well, I mean, he's not even a. Okay.
ひなみ沢にそんなお金持ちはいるのかな。難しそう。
ね。簡単じゃないんだよ。
Okay.
人間一人引き取るってのは。
Really? I didn't know that. In America, I mean.
誰かに押し付けようなんて短絡的な考えがそもそもダメなの。考えが浅いんだよ、ケイちゃんは。
なんなんだよ、チクショーチクショー。俺は必死に聡子を救おうと考えてるのにダメだってそればっかり。お前ら本当は聡子のことなんかどうでもいいんだろ。仲間のこと本気で心配してないんだろ。どうなんだよ。
そんなつもり。でもそう簡単にはいかないっていうか。
そんな難しい話じゃねえだろ。裕福な奴が聡子をしばらく面倒見てくれればいい、それだけのことだぞ。
Okay, you're being illogical here, Keiichi.
そうだ、ミオンチはどうだよ。お前御三家とかいう立派な家柄なんだって自慢してたよな。
What happened to the former Keiichi? Like, it really truly is not that simple. I understand that you really care about Satoko. I get that. But to just assume that others don't?
話じゃものすごいでかい家に住んでるそうじゃないか。
うち？無理。そんなのバチャが許してくれるはずない。
じゃあ沖宮に住んでる親はどうだよ。聞いた話じゃこっちもかなりの豪邸に住んでるらしいじゃないか。
Okay, now you're just getting insulting.
町には親類の経営する店がたくさんあるそうだし、立派な資産家じゃないかよ。おい、
ダメ。沖宮の家なんてもっとダメ。うちのお父さんそんなの絶対に許さない。
おい、普段は散々大物ぶりを自慢しといてここ一番で及び腰かよ。なんなんだよお前、聡子を見殺しにする気かよ。
そんなつもりはないけど。そりゃ私だって聡子は助けてやりたいよ。でもそれとこれじゃ話が
違うってのかよ。冷てえやつ、仲間の危機だろ。ここで救わなかったら何なんだよ。
Alright, this sound effect really actually helps.
部長だろ、部活の救えよ、仲間の危機をよ。今ここで救わなかったら仲間じゃねえ、人じゃねえ。お前の人間性が問われてるんだよ。
Wow.
聞いてるのかよミオン。 さっきから黙り込んでんだよ。聞いてるのかこの野郎。どうなんだよ。なんとか言ってるよ、その先見よ。
Damn, we had such a crazy flip here.
みー
Yeah, that must really hurt. I'm so sorry, Mion.
ケイチくん、みーちゃん家がダメなら他の裕福な家を探したら？私、ひなみ沢に立派な豪邸建てて住んでる人知ってるよ。
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that he didn't think of himself right away.
誰だよ。
Really?
白々しいよ。あれだけ立派な家に住んでて自分の家だけは蚊帳の外。
俺んちかよ。俺の家は
仲間なんでしょ。救ってよケイチくんが。みーちゃんはダメだってさ、冷たい。じゃあ仲間思いのケイチくんがお手本示さなきゃダメだね。あれだけ大きなお家に家族3人で住んでるんだっけ。じゃあ空き部屋なんかいくらでもあるよね。余ってるお部屋いくつかさとこちゃんに分けてあげればいいじゃない。それでめでたくさとこちゃんの悩みは解決。あら何これでもう終わり？あっけない話だったね。はいはい、解決お疲れ様。じゃあもう今日はいい？私帰るね。ランランラン。今日は久しぶりに宝探しにでも行こうかな。
Wow.
昨日まではずっとさとこちゃんのことが心配で全然遊ぶ気になんかならなかったし、今日はどんな宝物が見つかるかな。はうなんか言ってよ。私だけ喋りずくめ？黙ってんじゃないわよ。聞いてんの前原圭一。
Yeah, that. Oh man, that. Oh wow, that is something else. I appreciate that. That sucked the air out of the room, and then like the cicadas were like, "Yo, dog, let me get a piece in here." That was an easy way to illustrate that kind of thought process that he was having, and there we go. Right? Do I even need to say anything? I feel like that was enough. So, the Keiichi from before, we're still in chapter 1, but the Keiichi from before was trying to at least be more considerate of other people's feelings, right? And that there can be circumstances in which people cannot bring up something, right? We're living that kind of right now. And yet, it feels like that kind of just went above his head. Let's keep going. I'm thinking about how to connect that further. Okay. Well, the first thing is that this scene kind of solidifies with how strongly one person felt, Keiichi, right? And how it simply is not that easy of solution. So if the reader, for instance, was like, well, there is gonna be a solution. Why don't you just do this? Why don't you just do this? Etc., 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 right? It addresses that kind of complaint. And we already have like context for why we can't just go to the police and why we can't go to child services. And so it feels like there actually is nothing that we can do.
レナが怖いのです。
Also, they're just kids.
うん。ごめんねリカちゃん。みーちゃんもごめん。ケイチくんには謝らなくてもいいよね。
ああ、ごめん。めちゃくちゃなこと言って悪かった。
さっきのあれ、私に言ってたの？みーちゃん睨みながら言ってたから、私てっきりみーちゃんに言ってるもんだとばかり思ってた。
Oh, damn.
頭に血が上ってた。
Okay, and then there's a specific line in the chapter already regarding this specific situation. Something about how good intentions are eventually gonna go awry. I really remember that line.
うん、いいよ。私こそケイちゃんが一生懸命悩んでるのに、あれはダメこれはダメばっかり言って、ごめんね。私も悪かった。
Okay, and that particular scene to punctuate it. Sorry, that particular line to punctuate that scene still leaves you up in the air on whether this was resolved or not. I don't recall that whatsoever in the TV show. I'm pretty sure that's left out. That is such a strong impression that I got with Rena. And obviously Keiichi. It's kind of hard to just sit there and watch that happen. Okay, so it's setting up this belief that you can't actually do anything. So again, adding to the evidence for this feeling that the ending is predetermined. Good night, Manu. Take it easy, man.
"待つしかないのかよ、俺たちには。
何をかな。
奇跡。
Actually, H2O, I'm glad that you noticed that. So I just want you to remember that in the future. And that's also kind of why I think having this as a kinetic novel is so potent, right? There actually is nothing that we can do. There is no choice that we can make. We are no heroes in this.
無力なんだよ。私たちは。
Man, we've already gone into scary territory, to say the least. Yeah, things are so loaded against them that it feels like a miracle is what it takes to get out. So again, adding further. I feel like this chapter is how do I put it? Like the craftsmanship of this chapter feels so evident. And you can kind of see what's at work and at play here. Because we're not really focused so much on the plot anymore, right? We're thinking about other ideas. We already have a basic gist of how these stories go. we pretty much know the ending. We're trying to see what's the message in between the beginning and end, right? These 2 points. This? Actually, could you elaborate a little bit on that, H2O? I'm kind of curious. What's your thought process? Trying to find consistencies before the tragedies occur. When reading this the first time made me angry. Trying to find similarities before the tragedy. Did it feel like by doing so you're being disingenuous to the work? Is that why you felt that way? Like sure, there's a mystery, but by solely focusing on the mystery that you're missing out on like the message, or maybe the feelings going into the work. I think at the time I felt like I should be able to dissect Rikishi's mystery. Okay. Well, I mean, you have better context now. I feel like, let's say there's no real. I mean, with chapter 1 and 2, you kind of have that strong sense of mystery for sure. Like you don't know how things are going to go, again for sure. But this particular story, in my opinion, just as you said, actually, sets up a better understanding for what will be made into solidified themes in Higurashi, right? Like that you can't actually miss this story in between everything else.
俺は無力だ。
There we go. Truthfully, when I do rewatchings of Higurashi, I focus mainly on the second season, not the first. But I will say that the visual novel does a way better job of setting up thoughtful messages by referencing past stories. And part of it is because more time is allowed to the reader, right? You're given more time to absorb what's being sent at you. And so you can think about repetition of messages in case you might have missed it the first time. Here's a second time. Here's a third, right? Eventually, it kind of sinks into your head.
監督、こんにちは、前原さん。
Yeah, and I still feel that the anime version is very valid.
こんなところでお会いするとは本当に奇遇です。お家は近くなんですか?
Yeah, I would even go so far to say that the mystery and horror sides of the coin for Higurashi, you know, are obviously 2 approaches that you can make, and they're both valid to Higurashi. But solely mystery and solely horror, I think actually does miss the message. There has to be something a little bit in between.
Satoko?
Because imagine if you approached Higurashi solely as a mystery, then you're a little bit You know, I'm not gonna make that statement. Let's keep moving.
買い物の帰りに偶然監督にお会いしたんですのよ。送ってくださるというのでお言葉に甘えたのですわ。
Damn, she looks like shit. Well, damn, she looks like shit.
自転車でこんなに買い物をしたら運びきれませんからね。
God, someone had a really bad day. Honestly, this one, this one did a really good job. That expression really sinks it in. That maybe not that one, but
この袋セブンスマート？おいおい、自転車で行くにはちょっと遠すぎないか？
shit, man.
監督のおかげで助かりましたわ。ちょっと坂道は辛かったですから。
I mean, I think that's probably illegal even in 1980s. It's just that if you don't sell it to her, the implications kind of obvious.
さとこ、この買い物今晩の晩飯ってわけじゃないだろう。
当然ですわ。
You know, actually, I will make one statement. I really do feel that if you approach Higurashi, and don't get me wrong, there's certainly very extreme things in Higurashi, right? But if you go solely one way, or you only approach the story as a story of mystery, for example, right? You are kind of missing the core messages as well. Because you're noticing that in all these chapters thus far, an extreme answer is actually not really the one that you want to go for, right?
私、お酒なんか飲めませんし、おつまみも嫌いですし。
Because you're obviously missing nuance, and that's pretty evident in chapter 3 at least.
タバコなんか吸うわけ。
Like, so much of it is context sensitive too. And I feel like the unfortunate thing is that I've definitely met some Higurashi fans who had the impression that Higurashi was only horror as well, right? And because of that, I felt like also that message was lost on them. That kind of hurt me. Right, certainly there's more than one way to look at something. But to just have one particular perspective, and you can't see how each chapter adds more to your context, that kind of, I think, is not the intended way of approaching Higurashi, right?
Satoko!
Yeah, truthfully, when I read into Higurashi, I don't think about rational. I don't know how to say this one. If you were there for how I covered the Zero Escape series and how there's a mystery to that, right? I broke down the mystery because I went a different route. So I read it more as like a thematic understanding of what Zero Escape was. And because of my background in studying literature, I was able to be like, okay, the reason why this must happen is because of previous intentions by the author, right? So, as I said before, in say, think of your average mystery novel, right? The reason why the butler did it is not just because it's logical, it's because it had to happen. In the sense that the author sets up the thematic reasons for why it had to be the butler, right? So there's the logical reading of it, of like, these are the clues that lead to a logical deduction for why this is the butler, but also there's the thematic reasons. Those are also clues for why it had to be the butler, so to speak, right?
缶のガスかけっぱなしで出よったんな、この。
And if you can read a story like that, then you also know that
ごめんなさい。でもすぐに買いに行けって言ったから。
then you can see the progression of it. You can see where the ending would logically be, right?
やかましいわ。せっかくの銀座台無しにしよってん。どうしよったんじゃ。
ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい。
Yeah, I'm not really doing much of the mystery when it comes to this stream, right? I feel like to actually attempt to do so might be a little bit disingenuous because I already know the answer to it. But also because if you want to participate in solving the mystery yourself, I feel like I'll actually allow you to do so, right? I'm trying to add like the other angle of it. Okay, so that's the obvious information that we already know, because that's the reason why Irie was there, right? He drove her, but it's what do you call it? It's reinforcement information. Also, it established the fact that Keiichi got that. Excuse me, what the?
おや、入江の先生じゃないですか。
Did I win the bet from yesterday? We haven't actually played our match yet, and we haven't officially made the bet.
こんにちは。
But I'm thinking about playing Manu, maybe sometime tomorrow or the day after.
そしたら先生も上がっていきますか。もうオーラスですからすぐ入れますよ。ピンのワンツー、何でもありで。
いえ、遠慮します。さとこちゃんとは偶然お会いしたんで、ちょっとお送りしてあげただけです。すぐに失礼します。
そんな、ちょっとぐらいやっててくださいな。先生お金持ちじゃないですか。
You're just trying to rip him off. That's so easy to see.
さとこ、とっととカーキも持ってこんかい。ビールも冷めてもうた。冷蔵庫から冷えてるの出してくれな。
てっちゃん、娘に厳しすぎや。
His name is even just Thug. Wow.
もうちょい言いたわらんとかいそうやで。
あんな娘にはこのくらいでちょうどいいよ。兄貴んちにいた頃からそうでよ。甘やかすと親の言うことをなんも聞かんやっちゃよ。たく。
それよか、てっちゃんの妻だぜよ。
椿さんリーチしよったで。
おお、悪い悪い。なんね。椿、あんたまたリーチかいな。
町からおじさまのお友達が来てて宴会やってますの。お友達のお夕食もご用意するように言われてますのよ。
なんだよそれ。何やってんだよあいつ。麻雀ってそんなのに遊びほうけてさとこにこんなのを買いに行かせるのかよ。
前原さんも手伝ってあげてください。ほら男の子なんですから。
監督、こんなのまかり通っていいんですか？こんなの絶対に。
Honestly, I don't know how to react either. This is something,
私も2つ持ちますから。ほら
I have no data in my database to refer back to something right now. That's a
前原さんも持つのを手伝ってあげてください。
yeah, right? It's I right.
ケイツさん、大丈夫ですのよ。自分で持ちますわ。
That one kind of bit me. I felt that.
バカ、俺をなめるな。
監督もすみませんわね。重いでしょ。
いや重いですね。
本当にありがとうございますですわ。監督も圭一さんもおかげで本当に助かりましたでございます。
いいえ、ささやかでもお力になれたなら幸いです。お手伝いできそうなことがあったらいつでも言ってくださいね。
ええ、お気持ちだけでも本当に嬉しいですわ。
俺も力になれることがあったらいつでも力を貸すから、頑張れよな。
Right. That just hurts even more, at least for me. I'm starting to
ええ、ありがとうございますわ。わざわざこうしてここまで来てくださっただけでも嬉しかったですわ。さあ、もう行った方がよろしいですわ。今は酔っ払ってますから、どんな難癖をつけられるかわかりませんわよ。
Okay, so there's something that's happening right now that I'm trying to figure out also in my head. Because if I were to write, like, an article specifically about this chapter, this is exactly a scene that I would bring up. Because there's I feel like it helps define the core element of this chapter. And one of the ideas that I didn't really know how to express before was I would definitely take maybe like an hour or two just to kind of sit through this thought. So it's going to be kind of clumsy how I'm going to put it. I hope you kind of accept that. There was something that Rena said previously, not when she got angry, a little bit before that. And it popped an idea into my head about how behind closed doors, you don't really know what someone's going through, right? You don't know if they had a tough day at home, if they had a shitty, you know, childhood, etc. Right? That's information that we don't know until we get to actually talk with someone, until they kind of open up, until they share that kind of private, personal information with you. And by doing so, there's that kind of intimacy that's built, right? That's how people can kind of grow relationships. They share personal information with. That sounds really funny now that I put it that way. Let me try again. One of the common strategies to grow more intimate with someone is obviously to share things that you relate to or want to bring up and discuss and so forth. It's called reciprocity in communication. So there is this kind of inbuilt need in humans where if you are given something, there's a natural kind of desire to want to give back. And so by building upon that reciprocity, that feeling of wanting to give back, you naturally build your relationship to being better, right? So if you think about friendship, it sounds kind of weird to think of this way. If you think of friendship as a strange interaction of giving back and forth, then you kind of understand what I'm saying, right? We don't want to think about give and take in a relationship. I know. You don't want to think of relationships transactionally. But the ultimate goal, eventually, is that you don't think about give and take anymore. You simply want to give and help support your friends, for instance, right? Now, don't solely give. You should take a little bit as well, such as you should take your friends' words of advice, or you should take their appreciation to heart, right? So there's a little bit of a balance there. But if you think about it in that sense, let me go back to trying to make this argument again. If you think about it in that sense, what was I saying? I was saying that it's hard to know what someone goes through behind closed doors. But in Satoko's situation, it's not entirely that, right? We are set up at the beginning of this chapter to understand the importance of keeping this kind of contractual secret information amongst close friends. Now that you know, the reason why we don't talk about Satoko's brother is because it's a very sensitive subject, and we're doing so out of concern for Satoko, right? That thought process. You are also on the inside. You're also a close friend of hers. We trust you enough. That's why we told you that. That's the thought process. But now we're seeing that will kind of tested against this scenario specifically, right? You don't know what goes behind closed doors. Well, not anymore, right? That door is closed, but we know exactly what's going inside that house. And despite that, you can't do anything. So then it's like shoving in front of your face. You really think you're a friend? And that is why it feels so fucking biting, right? Because I'm sure so many of you can actually relate to this. Maybe not specifically this traumatic situation that she's in with the shittiest of like uncles, right? But you can get that idea. That idea of having to put up a facade, pretending that everything's okay. You're not allowed to talk about things that are going on behind your closed doors, right? What's happening in your life. And how heavy that feels to go through day by day, not being able to say the thing that is truly bothering you. Because situations can arise, context sensitive, for why you can't say that. And this is so blatantly in your face that something is wrong, but the context is so sensitive that it's hard to bring up and address it, right? So logically, in this story, you can't just go to the police, unfortunately. You can't just go to Oishi, because we now know the context for why, right? We don't actually trust him. He could actually be the very reason why people are dying in this story. I don't actually believe that. I'm not sure how many other people actually believe that, but that we get that from chapter 3, right? You can't actually just go to child services and go like, hey, my friend here is being abused. We're going to get a little bit more on that, actually, in this chapter. That's cut off from you. That's cut off. Your friends are cut off from you. And if your friends are cut off from you, and you can't say what's on your mind, then what is there to everyday life anymore, right? That thing that you wanted to preserve just a few hours ago, actually, at least on our stream, is now the very worst thing that you look forward to every single day, everyday life. It's kind of messed up. But like how to get to this point in the story required a lot of craftsmanship. I'm just bringing it up right now because I'm admiring it, right? It fucking hurts to go through this section right now. Like this is actually really well done, right? I'm super happy in the sense that it's so well written that it's able to invoke such strong, passionate emotion for me. But it's also really heavy right now. I'm like nervous laughtering through this kind of hesitation that I feel. So the first thing I'm gonna do is grab some more water and we'll get back into this. Give me a second. Okay, I'm back. It was kind of. I'm not sure if it's the house that's freezing, which oh, it actually is. Well, the house is obviously freezing for me, but I felt such a sense of cold while reading through that scene. Oh man.
おいサトコ、お前まだ熱が。
今年の夏風邪はなかなかしつこいようですわね。気になさらないでくださいませ。
嘘だろ。
本当にありがとうございましたですわ。では明日。
That's a very programmed response, Satoko.
学校でお会いできるといいですわね。
Okay, that's obviously the point.
そんな話してないだろ。その手のあざはどうしたって聞いてるんだよ。
階段から落ちたんですのよ。
気持ちはわかります。わかりますから前原さん、今だけこらえてください。お願いですから前原さん。
God, this feels like a fucking nightmare. That's all we can do. That yeah. Whoa. Oh man. Yeah, like the Higurashi are actually crying for you. I get that. And then you have that initial impression of what you were trying to do when you went to this scene, right? You wanted to play hero. Well, maybe not. No, actually, that was it. He imagined that all he had to do was just go into the house, punch the uncle, and play hero. But that's not how it's gonna work.
ありがとうございますですわ、
So
ケ
that
イチさん。
サトコ、
that kind of straightforward answer doesn't exist.
今ケイチさんが本当のニーニーみたいに見えました。私の本当のニーニーはいなくなってしまったけど。
And I guess that's the reason why it feels so ensnaring, why it feels so hopeless, that the easy answer is simply not there.
私にはケイチさんというニーニーがいてくれる。
そうだ。俺がお前のニーニーだ。お前が辛い時絶対に助けてやるから。
Alright, take it easy, Hedge. Sleep well.
ニーニーがサトコをきっと助けてやるからな。俺は逃げないからな。
え？
絶対に逃げない。サトシみたいにお前を見捨てて逃げたりしない。絶対に俺はお前を見捨てない。
さよなら。 ニー。大丈夫ですわ。今のニーニーので私いっぱい力をもらいましたから大丈夫。明日まで頑張れますから大丈夫だから、今日はさよならでございますわよ。
さとこ、はよ乾きも持ってこんかい。
さあ、ニーニー、早く行ってくださいませ。もう私は大丈夫ですから早く。
行きましょう、前原さん。これ以上はかえってさとこちゃんに迷惑をかけます。
監督、ニーニーのお家はちょっと遠いんですの。申し訳ございませんが送ってあげていただけます？
ええ、わかりました。
Wow.
前原さんの気持ちは痛いくらいにわかります。
Thank you for the raid, Hydra.
いえ、前原さん以上にわかるつもりです。
Well, I don't know how long I'm going to continue. I'm not actually tired right now, because I got a little bit of a nap earlier.
でも今この場だけはこらえてください。あなたの心は確かに伝わりましたから。だからこらえてください。でないと。
もう分かってます。すみません。さっきはありがとうございました。
え？あなたのお家そんな遠くなんですか？学校の反対側じゃないですか。
Well, I mean, it's clear.
でも今はサトシはいない。
はい、残酷ですがそれが事実です。悲しくあまりに残酷な話ですが、私たちの決意や努力、尽力には限界があります。
You know, it's a really weird feeling to have in this chapter, where I feel like the most appropriate response is just to go through it. And not go through it like without thinking. I mean, go through it because so much of the scenes require like its tone and atmosphere to really be felt, right?
サトシは一体どこに行っちまったんですか？
今頃どこでどうしているんでしょう。
どうして今ここにいないんですか？一番守ってやらなければならないこの時に。
お社様のたたりがどうとかいろいろ言われてますが、家出したとしか言えません。
ある日を境に帰ってこないって仲間が言ってました。 妹の聡子に書き置き一つ残さずに家出を。
Yeah, it feels really cold, right?
サトシ君はコツコツとアルバイトをしてたんです。サトコちゃんが当時とても大きなぬいぐるみを欲しがってましてね。結構いい値段らしくて、そのためにアルバイトをいろいろとしていたらしいんです。妹思いの兄でしたからね。おじ夫婦のもとで不憫な生活を強いられている妹に少しでも立派な誕生日プレゼントを贈ろうとしているんじゃないかってみんなささやき合っていました。サトシ君がいなくなり、警察がいろいろと調べたら、サトシ君の貯金が当日すべて本人によって下ろされていることが分かりました。方々をいろいろと調べた結果、その貯金を資金に東京の方に行ったんではないかということになりました。
東京？何しに？
家出としか言いようがないじゃないですか。
自分が逃げ出すための資金をコツコツと貯めて、そこまでは勝手ですよ。でも聡子を置いてくことはないじゃないですか。同じ家出するなら聡子も連れて行くべきだった。
察してください。置いていかれた聡子ちゃんも同じ考えに至ったんです。
Right. So that's the setup for understanding her thought process. That's actually really well done. So now you understand her traumatic mentality. Yeah. It makes no sense why my brother didn't bring me along with him, right? So it must mean that
でも聡子ちゃんはとても強い人でした。もちろん親しい友人たちの支えもあってのことでしたが、ああして笑顔を取り戻すことができました。サトシ君はきっと帰ってくる。
Ah, that's what he's doing. He's showing how just a little bit of extra knowledge recontextualizes past events. And that is actually how the story works too. Not just with chapter 3, but 1 and 2 again, right? That every chapter reveals a little bit more information, and then you start to really change your perspective on how things occurred. So yeah, that's certainly a mystery aspect about it. But it's not just all objective information. There's a very strong emotional change for context as well.
その時までにお荷物じゃなくなった自分を見てほしいって。
Right. And then they're making it more obvious that in this chapter, it's a lot quicker. Bam. You don't have to go through a chapter to understand it. It's simply just a few hours ago. That feeling that you had now changes. It's not just the fact that she was smiling and having fun of you, and now it's given the context of, like, let me find the exact line here. At the time, I didn't think any more of it than how pleasant their sibling love had been. But now that I think about it, I realize it was like she was peering into the distance from atop a pile of tragic perseverance. That even that smile is just enduring something that we're unable to see until we finally understood.
聡子はお荷物なんかじゃないですよ。あいつ俺なんかよりよっぽど生活力はあるし、大抵のことは何だってできる。そりゃレナやリカちゃんなんかと比べれば劣る点はたくさんあるかもしれないけど、 そこいらのやつよりよっぽど一人前ですよ。
サトシ君がいつ帰ってきてもいいように、そういう風になれるよう努力した結果です。涙ぐましい努力があったんですよ。
What was that? What was that idea again? It was the idea of how a chair could change its meaning simply by having more time. So in art, a chair can represent hope because it can imply the presence of something, right? The hope that someone will return, sit there. But the same image of a chair, for instance, can also imply a lack of something. The fact that someone isn't there anymore. And if you have enough time, that hope becomes the exact opposite, right? There's a flip in its symbolic meaning. So even though a chair can mean one thing, hope, it can actually mean the complete opposite as well. So one piece of imagery has two sides of it that are opposing each other.
で、そのサトシはいつ帰ってくるんですか？
So now you kind of understand further how preserving this belief that she has is eventually going to crush her, right? That you hope so much for your brother to come back that as time passes more and more and more, it's just gonna settle on the fact that you were abandoned instead. That hope just becomes solidified to something else. And so we get another example of why it's not okay to kind of keep that keep things unaddressed, keep things the same all the time, right? Right. So you also kind of get that insider-outsider context, not just within the village, but not even more intimately with actual family, right?
サトシはいつ頃逃げ出したんですか？
去年の綿流しのお祭りの夜、おばが異常者に殺されて、その数日後の聡子ちゃんの誕生日にです。
サトコの誕生日に？
Wow, that's gonna permanently leave a message in your head. Hard to forget that. Right. So now she's gonna... So the cycle continues, right? We have a full year of repeating this again. And Oh, a thought just escaped my head. Let me read the line again. Maybe it'll help. This right here is, in one sentence, what's happening now. All right. In a way, it's almost kind of overbearing. Well, not in a... Oh, I don't know how to put this. Not overbearing as annoying, overbearing to create an effect that this just settles in and you truly cannot think that there's a hopeful option, an alternative.
だから、あなたがニーニーだと認めてもらえて嬉しかったです。
Like, too many aspects of this story lead to the same conclusion.
Eh?
It would be irrational to think that this story is going to end in a different way.
私も聡子ちゃんの幸せを祈る一人ですが、社会的立場があり、日中は仕事をしている身です。
So you combine that with the fact that there's trauma and there's no escape from it. And then that's the end result for why this story obviously feels very heavy.
私が聡子ちゃんのために割いてあげられる時間は少ない。
And unfortunately, there's even more grim statistics about people who've been abused growing up.
でもあなたは違います。学校で生活を共にし、聡子ちゃんや聡くんとも年はほとんど離れていない。あなたは自分ができることに限りがあると思っていますが、それでも私よりはずっと聡子ちゃんに手を差し伸べられる場所にいるのです。だから私の分まで聡子ちゃんの力になってあげてほしい、そう願っています。
そんなことは監督だって。
もちろん年季のある私だからこそできる助けだっていろいろあると思います。同じようにあなたにしかできない助けだってあるということです。私たちは互いにそれを全うすべきだと申し上げたいのです。
監督は法律とか詳しいですか？
いえ、平均的に疎いですが、何か？児童福祉法でしたっけ？児童の安全を確保するために緊急措置として親子を分離させるという方法があるそうです。
緊急措置？じゃあすぐに聡子を叔父の元から救い出せるということじゃないですか。
聡子ちゃんがそれを望まないかもしれません。
聡子が望まない？
Right, so we even set that further in. Because that's... I'm going to assume at least someone had the thought that when Satoko's bruises were that apparent in the light, that now was the chance to get her out of that situation. And here's the answer to that.
どうして？
Which is also why they mentioned something else about her thought process.
聡子ちゃんは多分そういう仕打ちに耐えるのを試練だと考えているかもしれません。
試練？変な宗教じゃあるまいし。
ご存知と思いますが、聡くんは聡子ちゃんをずっとかばってきました。聡子ちゃんもずっと聡くんに頼ってきました。甘えてきたと言うべきかもしれません。それがトラウマになったかもしれないんですよ。自分が兄にもたれかかりすぎたから兄が自分を嫌ってしまったんではないかってね。だから誰にも頼らずに自分の力だけで試練を乗り越えたい。そういう力を身につけなければ聡くんは帰ってこない。そういう考えになっている。 と私は考えます。
みんなと相談して児童相談所とかに通報すべきかなんて話をしてました。
聞いてますよね。昨年も福祉士さんが聡子ちゃんのところに行ってるのは。
はい、結局様子見で余計にいじめられたって話も。
あれ、聡子ちゃんが自分で通報したらしいんです。
Is that on purpose? Their voices are quieter and the cars seem louder.
で、その結果余計いじめが水面下へ移行してエスカレートした。聡子ちゃんに降りかかるいじめも増え、それをかばうサトシ君の負担も著しく増えた。
ひょっとしてそれ通報した自分の責任だなんて思ってるんじゃ。
多分聡子ちゃんに通報の話をするととても嫌がるか、その必要はないと強がりを言うと思います。聡子ちゃんに内緒で通報したとしても、福祉士に対して自分は虐待を受けていないと言い張るでしょうね。一応児童相談所には裁判所の許可も当事者の許可も一切不要で緊急措置ができる強い権限があるんだそうです。虐待が公然の事実なら聡子ちゃんが否定しても身柄は強制的に保護されるでしょう。それは聡子ちゃんにとっては負けを意味するものなのかもしれませんが。
勝ち負けの問題じゃないですよ。聡子は現実に。
話を折りますが、身柄が保護されると所定の施設に送致されます。
So even with the man,
そうするとですね、そこで暮らすことになるので、つまり引っ越しということになります。ですから学区変更で転校にもなります。
転校は仕方ないです。それであいつが保護されるなら。
聡子ちゃんはその辺の事情も知っています。だからますます保護を望みません。
どうして？
because then if she's transferred schools, there's absolutely no hope that her brother will come back.
あの家でサトシ君の帰りを待つのが聡子ちゃんの生きる理由でもあります。
Right.
兄に捨てられた少女が何に生きる理由を見出したか、あなたのでなく聡子ちゃんの価値観で考えてあげてください。
うん。
And he doesn't. He's struggling to understand that. But that's so critical, though. So Keiichi's improved overall in terms of trying to understand a little bit more nuance, but still the critical thing of seeing from someone else's perspective is not. It's not happening.
俺は
Right.
わかりませんよ。
はい。
俺は本当に聡子が危ないと感じたら誰の意思も聞かずに行動します。その結果聡子は不快な思いをして俺を恨むことがあるかもしれないけど。
Yeah, they did a really good job of emphasizing a looping tragedy in this chapter. They're also emphasizing predetermined ends. How difficult it is to get out of these situations. The necessity of understanding from a different perspective, which obviously all of these aspects apply to the previous chapters. You're getting a really bigger picture of what Higurashi is supposed to mean now.
最終的にはそれが 里子の幸せにつながると信じます。
And in a way, we kind of shoved solving the mystery out of the picture. We got bits of it, right? More information about like why Satoshi is so important, characters reacting to that and how that applies previously, but that's kind of forgetting seemingly illogical aspects of the story now seem more reasonable, right? Why characters flip. It's not necessarily without reason.
どうしてあなたはそこまで。
里子は俺の仲間だから。そして俺は里子のニーニーだから。では理由は足りませんか？
いえ、足りないなんてことはありません。
誓ったじゃないですか、俺たち。
すみません。
Okay, so bringing up from the previous scene when Mion was saying something like, did he even promise you? So he brings it up now and see if that's going to be a thing or not.
里子を絶対に泣かせないって。
ひょっとして前原さんのお家ってあれですか？ああ、前原屋敷が前原さんのお家だったんですね。
That's a strange kind of response he had there. I mean, I know the house is kind of special, but makes me think a little bit more. Okay, what time is it? 4 in the morning. Oh boy. Also, they're starting to have a habit now of carrying music from the previous scene into these tip sections. Because before it used to just be silent, but now we kind of have that lingering music effect, which I think is a really strong decision to make. Do not view, do not duplicate. Case 31, November 20th. Satoko Hojo. Something years old. Residence, blank, Hinamizawa Village. Okay, go on. Anonymous telephone SOS of child. Okay. Abuse situation. Anonymous claims that a female child is suffering physical abuse by adoptive parents or guardians. Family structure. Marks abusers. Adoptive father, adoptive mother, older brother, child in question. In June 1980, the child's parents died in an accident and she was given to her uncle on her father's side. Yep. The response? On the day of the anonymous telephone consultation, the center called the child's school and asked for a situation. The next day, the welfare officer on duty visited the child's home and heard what they had to say. Okay. Both adoptive parents agreed to the center's coaching, contacted anti-abuse network in the city. As part of this suggested coaching, a district welfare officer in the area began visiting for coaching at fixed intervals, and we already had our opinion about this. Okay. Refer to 19... You know what? It makes so much sense that Ryukishi was a social worker. Like, to have this information and understand how to portray this so competently makes me have more respect for him. Okay. Ask Chief Investigator F from the city's education consultation offices. He is well informed about it. This is just a note. Refer to this document or ask this person. That's it? Like, actually no analysis. Just look at this. Okay. Man, this is this chapter feels long for sure, but also I just lost my train of thought again. I'm trying to remember. What was it? It's so hard to move through sections in this chapter, not because they're boring, but because they're so painful to trudge through. Like I had to take breaks. If I were reading this on my own, I probably would have stepped away from the computer several times. Kind of a weird feeling too, because I woke up essentially from a happy dream that made me feel very lonely, and then I went from that into this, and I'm feeling right now maybe that wasn't the smartest choice, but at the same time I am appreciative of it. Like it gives me more context for thinking about things too. Well, I mean, I think I'll be playing more Grand Blue Versus, maybe later today. But I am a little bit exhausted right now, and then I still feel like, even though Higurashi and doing these streams make me feel like I've accomplished something, right? And I'm thinking about subject matter that's really important, and I care about it. I still feel like I'm not doing enough. And I wanted to make this quarantine period a way to kind of build up my skills and push a new aspect of my life, but it's just been so hard to really motivate myself and do things day to day when it's always the same. And I mean, I know other people are struggling with that too, but I'm at the point in my life right now where I really want to add new elements into my day-to-day routine where I feel like I'm getting a sense of accomplishment from the work I do, as well as a sense of security from it, right? So like writing, for instance, has given me a sense of significance because it's doing something that I was taught and I wanted to do in college, and learning about it made me feel like there was meaning to life. And so writing and applying those skills made me feel that every day I was learning something and there was like actual progress in my life. Whereas before it felt, yeah, monotonous, and that there was no goal, there was no progress, and so life was not moving forward. I felt frozen. And now that I've moved on from that job, and the quarantine has made people lose a lot of their jobs, right? I want to enter that new aspect of my life that I was looking forward to so much. But now I'm hitting this wall, and I struggle to go day to day trying to push forward, and just there's motivation, but not in the right way, right? There's motivation out of like anxiety, but not motivation out of like passion or something, or I really want to do this. And every day I wake up and I get nervous because I feel like if I don't push aside this dread that I'm feeling, that it's going to only repeat past mistakes that I've made. And so that's kind of like my thought process when I'm going through Higurashi, right? And then imagine that thought process while also reading this chapter, how heavy that must hit. And that's where I am right now. So I'm just thinking to myself, wow, this couldn't have come at a weirder time, but also at a more poignant time. it's something that I'm not really getting used to. And I don't want to get used to this particular thing. I don't want to wake up every morning dreading that something bad might happen. And it's kind of a thing that I've been doing lately, unfortunately. And I kind of just hope that nothing bad happens that day. And I don't think I'm handling that, honestly, all too well. So I don't really know how to approach it, actually. I don't know how to go about my day-to-day routine right now. All I know is that it's nice to have these streams and talk about these things and read into a visual novel because I feel like it's significant, right? But I can't put to the side these things that are bothering me. And so either I take a significant break in trying to give myself enough like room to kind of reset myself and relax so I can better approach the problem that I have, or I just keep trying to push myself through. And right now I feel like I'm at a breaking point when it comes to trying to motivate myself to learn new skills and stuff like that. And it's not even with a subject matter that I don't care about. I actually do care about the thing I'm trying to learn. It's just I don't know. Like, why can't I just focus? I don't get it. Yeah, thank you, Loveheart. Thank you, Kino. Maybe this chapter is just hitting home a little bit too hard, and that's the reason why I've been so slow going through it. I mean, that's definitely the case. Like, I can feel that for certain, actually. But it's yeah. We're gonna take it a little bit slow on Tsubahibi at first. I hope you guys don't mind. It might just be first week, chapter 1, call it a day. Second week, maybe add a little bit more time. Because right now, I'm not really sure I can jump from Higurashi this chapter into Tsubahibi, and I'm also juggling studying, and I'm also trying to study, well, juggling studying, our life situation right now, and I'm streaming. That's a lot all at once, man. And these streams aren't like exactly thoughtless either. It's not just like, oh, go have fun, right? It takes a lot of energy out of me to actually break down these story, like these plot points, these story ideas. It's I hope understandable why I feel exhausted when I go through visual novels, right? I might not be actively doing something or like reacting to everything physically, like, oh, there's something on the screen, dodge, right? But I have to use I use my focus in a way that is draining. And it doesn't help that that the content is emotionally draining as well. I feel like I'm dying now, actually. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like for some reason people might assume that simply reading something doesn't take any energy. But the more I think about it, the more that I think that I don't think the average person would actually consider that being the case, right? Because reading through a textbook takes your energy. I mean, at that point, it's reading to absorb, and obviously that takes energy. And that's what I'm trying to do with Higurashi. Like, a part of me is scared that after I finish Higurashi, even if I feel that it's important in my life, I will apply none of the lessons. And I feel specifically right now in my life that the things that I know about this story, and as I'm experiencing them, I feel like it's actually addressing concerns specifically that I have. And if I don't take time to consider them, then the message truly might be lost on me. Even if I can explain it. Even if I empathize with it. If I don't act on it, then then what do I say to that? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I do wonder if that's actually the norm. I know I've heard some stories from fellow friends who do art, right? And it hurts me to think that's actually considered normal. Okay, now he's starting to think very seriously about what actually would be required to take care of another child. Okay, but obviously you have to rely on your parents.
そんなにも子供って無力なのかよ。
起きてたの？ さっきからご飯ってずっと呼んでるわよ。
あ、うん。今行く。
Okay, I think it's 4:20 a.m. is the perfect time to call it quits on the stream. I'm just thinking in the back of my head right now, so many other thoughts that are kind of interfering with me focusing on this. And I mean, that's not entirely unrelated, right? I understand that this is bringing up a lot of past history in my head. That's also a lot of the reason why it's so difficult to read through. But I had a thought in trying to help myself get through studying, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't forget this like lesson that I learned from earlier, which is try not to have an end goal. Like, you know where you're trying to go with this, right? At least that's kind of important. But don't just start a project and go like, I just must reach the end goal, done, right? It's more like these small steps, a little bit at a time. And having those small manageable steps is what will make me able to progress. Because if I look at it from the perspective of the beginning of the journey to the end of the journey, that's a long road to take, right? And I feel like that's what I'm doing right now. Yeah, and that's in the back of my head because I'm struggling to ignore that right now. And it doesn't help that that's actually pretty much also the subject matter of this particular chapter. So calling forth my real life experience while reading this is certainly intentional. Man. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna do. I'm going to restart the stream because we're done with this stream, and I'm going to finish up a few things very quickly. So I will be back in just a moment. Please let me know when I am.